We have one main thing to talk about, but I do want to mention this and pray for one of our elders who's going to take a sabbatical. The elders and deacons take sabbaticals. We're like anyone, we're called, but that calling isn't like some church, some organizations have a board of directors where you serve for 3 years or 5 years or that. In our church, elders and deacons are called, and so there can be elders and deacons who are not called anymore, just like you might sign up to lead a small group and then feel like you're not called to lead a small group anymore. Elders and deacons are called until God doesn't call them, but we think it's wise to give them, our elders and deacons, rest and breaks. And so we did not break last year because we were working on mission, the mission statement that's here before you. And so we're going to reinstitute that. I don't know, actually. I need to check with which deacon is maybe taking a sabbatical. But Jordan Peace is going to start a sabbatical. That's not why he's not here today. He had a sick kid. But he is starting a sabbatical as an elder now for the first half of the year into the summer. That doesn't mean if he's your shepherding elder, we don't reshuffle those things because those are long-time relationships. And in fact, one of the things the elders are going to be working on with the women's care team this year is sort of a re-emphasis of shepherding and be more proactively shepherding. So Jordan will be a part of that, but the coming to meetings, some of the weight of being an elder, he's going to take a break from that and have a sabbatical from that. And so I'm going to pray for him, but just to let you know that, and let me just pray. God, we thank you for Jordan and thank you for the pieces, and we pray with a lot on their family, just with lots of children, lots of pressures at work, and we just pray for rest for him and for Jessamine, and pray for their just even some new stepping back from some of the things of serving as an elder for the beginning of this year would allow his space to reach him and minister to him in different ways. And we pray for that would happen. Even as we were speaking yesterday about this, there'd be some intentionality of what you have for him in this time, and also availability to other things that you've called him to do and be a part of. So we're grateful for him, grateful for our officers, grateful for all our lay leaders in the life of the church, but especially our officers, our elders and deacons. And we pray for blessings on Jordan and his family. Amen. So we, as you guys know, we talked about, it even came back up today. Thanks, Garrett, for putting that in. That wasn't planned, but our mission statement, building a home where people find belonging, rest, growth, and purpose in Jesus. We preached through that this fall. Let me re-share with you some of the ministry objectives that we walked through, I think in August. There are 5 ministry objectives just for you so you can see them. Cultivating, so these in other words are areas in which in the next decade we're going to put significant leadership and time and resources into pursuing. These are things we have done, but in some sense we're doing them in different ways or renewed ways. Cultivate a welcoming, Christ-centered worship environment and community. And so part of that is involved with moving here and getting settled here in this home, which allows us a different space, a space to grow, a bigger space, a space of welcome to our church out here, which has been fantastic. Natural light, that's fantastic. That's also, the team is going to report in a few weeks. There's a long-term property and vision committee, and they have met once. They're meeting again, I think we're meeting again in a week or so, and that's to kind of wrestle with what are the property we obtained, how do we think about that? How do we plan for what God might do on that space? That team will give an update in a couple weeks, so I won't sort of steal their thunder, but they've already begun to work. They have a second meeting. We have a second meeting coming up for that. Building a robust discipleship and leadership pathway. Of course, discipleship has been a part of our church, but there'll be new ways and new emphases. Leading with Grace, which we started last fall and are continuing. It's a 2-year leadership thing, and you certainly, if you didn't take part in the beginning, you can jump in. We hope people will take all the 6 or 8 courses that we end up doing, but that is part of this area of this meeting this objective. Deepening community and relational intimacy across the church. We've started some more adult male and female gatherings. That was a good observation by one of our adult members. Intergenerational relationships and meetings and service has been a part, but that's a renewed emphasis. And then as I just mentioned, the elders, especially off of the mission and off of mission objective, really want to get back to what's clearly called for elders from 1 Peter to be shepherds of the flock. It's not that we haven't done that, but that we want that in coordination with the women's care team to be a renewed emphasis in our call in this next year and in the coming years. See every home in Hanover County flourish through expanded community presence, deepened partnerships, and the transformative power of faith and service. You can tell which one I was a part of because it's longer. That's it. The COMET team, which is a community outreach engagement team. We've already done several updates, so you're kind of aware of that work, and more things are happening already. Jason DeHaven, who's on that team, is meeting, I think, this month with the Ashland Homeless Task Force, which is really looking big picture forest-like. How do we address homelessness, which is particularly in our county, is in the town of Ashland, and the town of Ashland's reckoning with it. It's everyone, DSS, police force, churches, everyone is involved in sort of this task force, and our church is involved with that now because of this expansion in number 4. And then number 5, invest in enduring infrastructure, space, staff, and systems. We will be moving in these directions in the years to come, but a personnel team has already met and is meeting again this month. Reed Jacob and Ross Miller are leading that team from the elders, but there's also lay leaders involved with that as well. And that's actually also connected to the main reason we're doing an update today. Those are all reasons. I went through quickly because we have 30 minutes, but I just wanted to give you a taste. These are objectively shared. We'll continue to share them, but you already see ways in which we're moving out and have been moving out and will continue to move out as a church. But we particularly want to give an update on our elder decision that we have come to over the course of the second half of 2025 and involving staffing. And so I'm going to let Ross sort of take over from here.
Thank you, Clint. Thank you. All right. So as Clint said, he went over sort of our vision, mission statement, those updates. That process of developing that has been a little over a year. We started August 2024, I think, is when we started that process of developing new vision, mission statement. And part of what we did during that process is sort of looking and meditating on the different blessings God has given Grace over the many years, and how can we now use those blessings as we move forward, and what is God calling us to as he has grown us and as he has given us those things. He'd mentioned part of it was that we have acquired another property next to our current property, so tangibly looking at, hey, a permanent home here in New Kent County, job and church mix.
We're starting in New Kent?
Yeah, no, Hanover County, and so we have a committee that's looking at that. Also, another blessing that some of you may not realize. I mean, you may see less empty seats around, but if you don't mind throwing up the next slide there. Over the last 4 years, 2021, we had 68 households in Grace. And over the last 4 years, we've gained some. We've also sent some families out. But in the end, we have actually gained 16 other households that God's blessed us with. So at the end of 2025, we have 84 households in membership here. Our hope is over the next 2 to 3 years that we'll be sitting at 100 households at least. And so with that comes additional needs, along with, we'll talk a little bit about budget. That's another blessing that we've had, is just an increased budget over the last couple of years, and seeing God's, his just blessings there. So, but as I said, with increased number of people and with our vision and mission statement changing some, we have additional needs that we need to fulfill here at Grace, and that we need to look at staffing for. So if you don't mind switching to the next one. So some of the needs that we have as far as staffing, we do need more lay leaders, so people who aren't on staff, and we've seen some of that. As Clint talked about, we have several committees that have started up as we start to do this work with our new mission and vision statements. And we have people who have jumped up, like joining each of those committees to be leaders in those areas, which is awesome. However, along with that work, as we've sort of plotted out, what are the next steps over the next 5 to 10 years, we've noted that we do need additional hours of staff work, of paid staff, to be able to do some of the leadership that needs to be done. And some of those things are on this next slide that we need. So one is our college age ministry has grown. We are now at 27 college age students who we send out, but we still want to be ministering to those. Some are still here locally, but we want to look at how can we continue to feed into their lives. Also, our young adult ministry. That's another area that has specifically we've seen growth in over the last 2 to 3 years. And however, with that growth, we don't really have a ministry that is geared or staff that is geared directly towards young adult. And young adult, we're talking like 20s and early 30s. And we don't have anybody who's really tasked with how are we reaching that new population that has come into the church, and how do we continue to grow that population. Our community groups, Clint does a great job of leadership there, but with the new vision, mission statements and the things that we're moving towards, we need more time set aside for community groups. And then 2 things that come directly out of our new mission statements are, if you didn't notice, there's an increase in focus on mercy. And so we need more time that's devoted towards mercy ministry. And then with more lay leadership jumping in, and as I said, we're looking at additional staffing, we need more leadership development. And so we need more time devoted there. So when we look at all these areas of need, we felt like we needed an actual person and somebody who can sort of dedicate time directly to that. We're great. We have great staff already in Clint and Garrett, and then our part-time staff, but really felt like we couldn't continue to just basically dump more and more on them and need to actually bring other people alongside. So with that, we are looking at adding an additional full-time staff person. This will be the first time in a long time. We've actually been 2 full-time staff since Grace started. And so this will be the first time we've added basically another full-time staff member and increased to 3 full-time staff people. Let me catch up with my notes. All right, so at our last session meeting in December, we actually went ahead and voted and decided to form a team to start looking at hiring an additional staff member. And so I want to go over a little bit about what this position will be and sort of what type of roles they'll take on. So if we jump to the next slide, this position would be Director of Spiritual Formation. And these are just a handful of the bullets from a job description that has been put together. But this is the bulk of sort of what they'll be doing. So first, developing an adult discipleship vision. So how are we directly discipling all the adults at Grace? Overseeing community group ministry. So how are we feeding into our community group leaders, developing new leaders, and keeping that ministry strong. Overseeing Sunday community ministry, including student Sunday communities. Then overseeing the men's ministry, partnering with the director of women's ministry and adult ministry vision and implementation. Currently, we have a director of women's ministry. There is no person who who's on staff who oversees men's ministry. Developing young adult ministry, so putting together sort of what are we doing for that 20 to 30-year-old population, and then overseeing our college ministry that we want to begin developing. This person will take that and start developing out what does that look like and how are we reaching out to our college-age students. So in developing this, also over the last couple of years, we've been talking with Garrett Malone, who's already on staff, and he's graduating, exciting news, in 2026 in May from seminary. And so part of that, there you go. And we're looking sort of prayerfully for him and he's hopeful to be ordained sort of by the end of 2026, early 2027. And so part of that process of going through seminary is also taking a look at your calling and looking at what's God's plan for you in the next steps of your ministry. And so through that process, while Garrett loves the students and has enjoyed his time there, through discernment is looking at sort of more of a mixed ministry and looking at the focus for his next steps. And so the session has asked him to take on this role as his next step in ministry. And so exciting news is that Garrett, even after finishing seminary, will be remaining with us, but in this new role. And so it'll be some of a transition there. And so with that,
Clap for that.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. So with that, while taking on, can you jump back again? While taking on these things, he'll also sort of increase preaching load. We saw it preaching today, and he preaches right now about 3 to 4 times a year. That'll increase probably about 6 or 8 times a year is what we're looking at. And then, so then with that, that opens up sort of his current role, and then another role that we've been sort of wanting to look at full-time for a while. And so the actual position that we're looking for now is a director of student and music ministry. This person would oversee both the student ministry as it exists right now, and then what does it look like moving forward. Mentoring our students to care for and reach out to their friends, and so how are they impacting the friends that they're interacting with every day. Then also refining and implementing the vision for Grace Community's music ministry, and recruiting, training, and oversight and encouragement of musicians. And so taking on a dual role of both student ministry and music ministry as we move forward. How we see this happening basically is they're spending about 1/3 of their time on the music ministry and then 2/3 still developing our student ministry. The couple things about the role as we're looking for a person to fill it is we'll already have the plan is to already have 2 ordained people on staff. So this person would not need to be ordainable or someone who's attending seminary. So it also can be filled by man or woman. The hiring team, which we've put together, has good flexibility in sort of who are they looking for and finding the best person who will fit both of these needs. A couple things is that we transition. During this time, Garrett's still going to continue in his current role until we hopefully have someone on staff by the end of this year. Also, as we transition, you may have noticed there's a little bit of an overlap. The spiritual formation position still oversees Sunday communities, and that includes the student ministry during that time. So there's still going to be some overlap that Garrett and Clint and this new person will sort of work out as the new person comes on. And so with Clint, some of these things that this person's taking on, he's currently been doing. And so this is going to free him up. One of the pieces that the session's been sort of working with him on and been sort of desire to move forward in is him taking more of leadership within the Mercy Ministry and really devoting time there, but then also in leadership development amongst our staff and amongst the lay leaders. And so really giving him more time to really focus in there in the development of the different, basically, leaders of the leadership teams and the staff. Also, you probably noticed, music ministry, we currently have a part-time person doing music ministry. We're very thankful for Randy and his leadership over the last couple years. And with his leadership, we've thrived in music ministry, but part of that process that we started a couple years ago when we hired Randy in discussion was that this was a temporary thing until we could get to a point where we could hire a full-time person. And so during the last couple months, we have been in discussion, well, the whole time we've had discussions with him of timing and all that, but the last couple months that's sort of increased on, hey, we think we're close to that time. And so he's in full support of this as well, but he'll be sort of continuing along until we have someone on staff and then work with them on the transition over to someone new taking over sort of the music ministry. So again, nothing's going to happen with staffing until we have someone in place. So then once they're in place, Clint, Randy, and Garrett will all work together to transition.
That's God's blessing of our plan.
Yes. So one last thing before I turn back over to Clint, and that's just wanted to go over the people on the hiring team. And so the hiring team that's been put together you'll see it's a mix of people from different age groups as well as different ministry groups within the church. So Hunter Dickinson, Clint Dowda, Julie Fairbanks, Olivia Hussey, Reed Jacob, Jordan Peace, and Joey Rogers are on that team. And I've already started their work in taking a look at the job description and talking through sort of what is this going to look like and what's the search process look like. So I'm going to turn it back over to Clint to talk about, I guess, budget and a couple other things I think are on the list.
Only one slide. Yeah. Roll it, Kevin. So because we didn't want to give too much, we can give too much. We can give more. Right behind you is a guy on the finance team. Eric Augustine over here is a guy. The finance team, Stephen Webb. So we do feel this is a conversation. We did bring the deacons into this conversation. We met with them in December last month and talked to them personnel-wise a little bit earlier. We have seen an increase. This is budget surplus. In the last 5 years, it's halfway, obviously, 25, 26. Our budget year, if you remember, is July 1 through June 30th. So we've run surpluses each of the last 5 years. I think actually 6 years, if you go back. We didn't put that on the slide. Before, if you did the previous 5 years, that wasn't the case. In some cases, we were right at or even in the red. So we feel like there's resources now to do that. You might be wondering, where did all that money go? Okay, that money went to a couple ways. It went to, we didn't have what the finance team felt like was a proper reserve in our general fund, so now we have a 3-month, I think it is, reserve in our general fund. So some of the surplus money went to build that up. Some we did give some at different points in those 5 years to extra missions giving. A lot of the money, as you know, went to the building fund to purchase the properties. So we did raise money within the church in 2 capital campaigns, one more formal and the one we're currently in very kind of unofficial. But there were gaps, particularly in the second property, and so a lot of the money, the building fund, a lot of this extra money went to that building fund, went to purchase those homes, which we own without any debt now, which is a great thing. So we feel like, you can see right now, this year, $48,000, income in versus expenses. If that holds, you double that, that's $100,000. We feel like there's room within our budget if the giving continues as it is today, like as it is through December, to afford this position, whether it's an experienced person or if it's a less experienced person, there's a fluctuation. We don't know exactly, but I'd say $75,000 to $95,000 additional budget money to hire someone, because we'll save a little bit and some other things staffing-wise. So we feel like, and the elders feel like with that, what we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, it will be an increase, obviously, to our budget. We would anticipate best case scenario, and we'll pray about this to end, that this summer would be when we could bring this person on. So it would be not this year's budget, but July, this summer would hopefully. But we feel like if our giving level remains now, in other words, our projected giving to expenses, we're quote unquote making money now. And we want to address that, put that surplus towards the hiring of a staff. So we probably won't be having a lot of big surpluses, but we will be able to meet our budget and then move forward. Any other questions? Certainly can have questions afterwards to any of the elders or people you saw who are on the hiring team, or to Garrett. You might have questions to Garrett. Okay. Why don't we do this? Let me open up and have 1 or 2 people pray for just where we are and where we're moving forward to, and I'll close us.